So that song has buried in it one of the most believable lies that we all at one time or another fall victim to, which is if I just had enough money, I could get everything I want. But you know this, you know as well as I do. The things that your soul craves the most will never be bought by coin. And yet we fall victim so often to those kind of lies. Now, I don't know, but I'm going to maybe guess that a few of you are already a little bit ruffled, maybe a little bit offended or a little bit worried, offended because you actually know the original version of that Bruno Mars song and some of the words that were in it. And maybe some of you are a little worried because you're like, are you kidding me? I came to church and we're talking about money? I knew I should have been in my deer stand today. And you're like, doggone it, here. Well, I know, I thought the same thing, but here we are, and we're going to do it together. So, but for those of you that are like, oh, I'm not offended or upset by anything. Great, I'm an equal opportunity offender. I will get to you before the day is up. That's my goal. I'm going to include you all at one point or another. But I do want to say before we go any further, today is not really about money. I know we said generosity, and we're going to talk about it for a couple weeks and what that means, but hear me. Today is not about money. But your stuff, my stuff, our wealth, our things, our toys, all of it, it is the pathway that gets us to what it is that we have to talk about, I think, for a few weeks. And you go, well, what is that? Our heart and the condition and the health of it. Now, some of you might still be a little bit skeptical. Maybe this is the face internally that you're having right now. You're like, yeah, right, okay. Do we have? Yeah, right there. That's your inside face right now. So let me try to waylay just a couple of bits of skepticism that might be present on a day like this in a church, let alone the big church that's going to talk about money. Number one, today is not the beginning of a campaign. We're not launching a campaign, a generosity initiative. That's not what today is all about. I know a lot of times in the church world, when we start talking about money, it's like, oh boy, here comes the campaign. So I want everybody to say it with me. This is not a campaign. Okay, it's not. I promise you, it's not a campaign. Also, by the end of today, I'm not going to have you sign anything. There's no cards. There's no like, check this box, make this pledge, make this commitment. That's not today. That's not what this week, that's not what next Sunday is about either. Not a campaign, no pledge, no specific ask I'm going to make of you at the end of the day. And this is also not reactionary. Like, this is not born out of the fact that things are bad behind the scenes. We're not eliminating staff, reducing budgets. We're not panicking because we're not making the year end. Like, things are, believe it or not, going really well across all of our churches. It's really strong right now. Now, always more resources means more done for sure. But at the moment, this is not reactionary. There's no staffing issue or problem. There's no secret thing happening. This is not about the staff trying to get their own personal jet over the next couple of weeks. The one we have currently is fine. We don't need a new one. So no agenda. Let me also say this. None of us gets out of today. Because when we start talking about generosity or wealth or the stuff and the entanglement of that with our hearts, what we can have a tendency to do is go, well, that doesn't apply to me because I don't have a lot of stuff, so you're talking to the rich people in the room. Here's the thing. Wealth and richness is largely determined by comparison. How much you have versus somebody else, what they do or what they don't have. Based on that, I know many of you probably know this already, the reality is, right now, the average American home is 90 to 95% wealthier than the rest of the world. That puts us in a place where I think today does apply. But it's not strictly about money, but I just want to say, if there's any part of us that's like, I get out of this one because don't have a lot of it, compared to who? Now, I also want to say this. We're living in a really weird time right now. With the government shut down, the way that's impacting people, there are some of us, maybe you're watching online, maybe you're sitting here in the room, that you're thinking, man, this is a uniquely difficult time, though. And there are some of us that right now you're being hit in a way that this is going to be a weird topic at the season of life you're in right now, and I just want you to hear me say this. We want to help however we can. So if you go back to the hub that Kathy talked about, those little discs on the back of all your chairs, you hold your phone by that. When that brings up the digital hub, there's a spot in there called Care and Prayer. If you need help right now, we want to figure out how to walk with you in that and how to help, and would love you to just go on there, fill that out with the amount of information that you're comfortable with right now, and we'll get back with you this week. But just want you to know that I realize the timing is a little bit odd and painful for some of us, given the things that are happening in our nation right now, and that we're going to talk about what it means to live generous and what it means to detangle our heart from our stuff. Let me say this lastly. If you're not a follower of Jesus yet, I don't want your money. That's not what God wants either. I want you to hear that loud and clear. This is not some secret backhanded attempt to use God and the Bible to get into your wallet. What we want here at Ridgepoint more than anything else for you is that you would give your heart to Jesus eventually. When you would come to know that he gave his entire life for you, and he's not after your money, he's after your heart, and you would eventually present your heart to him. And here's the thing, when you do, in time, he'll tell you, like anybody else that walks with him, what to do with your money, and how to use it, and where to give it, and where to be generous with it. And that might not be here. That might be another church, it might be another place. I'll trust that he'll have that conversation with you when the time comes. So, you guys ready? We jump into this? Let me pray, and then we're going to go a little bit deeper. Jesus, thank you so much for the chance, again, to be together with our church. To be together with you, your presence, this group of people, and all the diversity that makes up who we are as a community this morning. From some of us living in a really great season of life, and some of us in a very painful season of life. Some of us are just kind of coasting right now, and some of us are trying to keep our head above water. Some of us doing all of it as we walk hand in hand with you, and some of us figuring out if there even is a you. And so, God, I'm thankful for both the complexity and the diversity that makes up our community here. And I pray, trusting that you will speak with the voice that only you can into the many different places that we're all at today. I pray, Holy Spirit, that you would overcome resistance, that you would overcome any barriers, that you would do your good work to keep my words true and accurate to you, to your scriptures, to you as a person, Jesus Christ, and to the things that I need to continue to learn and grow in as well. And so thank you for being present, for speaking, and that we're going to be able to hear you today. In your name, amen. Okay, so given all that, this is going to be a weird placement, but we're going to take up our offering now, so... You're like, If you're not new to Ridgepoint, you know that this is where we usually do this, and we'll stop for a minute. And so I'm just going to briefly say thank you to all of you that help make Ridgepoint happen. This is an incredibly generous community of people, and I think we have been able to serve so many for so many years because of it. So thank you so much. Buckets are going to go around. If you're part of Ridgepoint, you know how to treat the moment, and just want to say thank you for it. So let me tell you really quickly why I think this is important. Why the message is important, and even why the timing. We're entering a time of year where over the next couple of weeks, getting to the end of the year, we're all already, but we're going to even more so be barraged with all kinds of messages and marketing on what we need to have, what other people need to have, what we need to spend our money on, what we need to pursue, what we need to get. We're going to be just overwhelmed with as much input that we need to give to other people as we need to get for ourselves. And so I think the timing is unique, but here's the thing. Beyond the timing of our world and our culture right now, there is a transcendent reality that doesn't matter what season of life we live in or whether it's near the end of the year or not near the end of the year, that I think makes a message like this necessary far more than just once or twice a year, and it's this. Throughout this entire book, from cover to cover, there is one single ultimate command that trumps everything. If you were to say, what is the most important command in all of this book? There's one. And that command is this, that you and I would love the Lord our God with what? Heart, soul, mind, body, and strength. Beginning with, say it out loud again one more time. We would love God with all of our, and the second is like it, that we would then love our neighbor as ourselves. And when Jesus was asked the question originally to try to basically be stumped by the religious leaders trying to catch him in a trick, they asked him, what's the greatest commandment? Because there were 613 that they had developed. And so if they could catch him saying, well, this one's important, they could criticize him for not accentuating others. And so the whole question was born out of a trap. And so his response was, well, actually, all of the law, all of the prophets hang on this command to love God with all of your heart, with all of your soul, with all of your mind, with all of your strength. Here's a danger, is that there is one primary competitor for the affections of your heart, and that's the stuff of this world. Call it your money, your toys, your possessions, your house, or all the glory and reputation that comes from it. The greatest contender for the affection of our hearts is the stuff of this world. And God says very clearly, here's my command, that you would love me. Your heart would be affectionate to me. Your heart would be entangled with mine. And yet all the stuff of this world does everything it can to invite our hearts to be tangled up with it. And so here's the reality. You and I, as followers of Jesus, will live in one of two ways in regards to God and the stuff of this world. And there's not three or four, there's two. You're either going to live in a way as to love God and use the stuff of this world as the tool that it was intended to be, or you're going to love the stuff of this world and you're going to use God in an attempt to get more of the stuff of this world. There is not another option. And that's not my idea. Go to the book of Matthew, chapter 6. This was Jesus' original idea. Matthew 6 is a story that Jesus once told and a teaching that came out of it that for some of us is not going to be brand new, but maybe for some a little bit of a reminder. Jesus once said this, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and vermin destroy, where thieves break in and steal, but instead store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal." This is not God saying, I don't want you to have stuff. He's saying, I want your stuff to be used in such a way that it actually leads you to what real wealth is. And it's not based on the stuff here that can be broken and stolen and rust. And then he goes on and he says this, "For where your treasure is, there your what? There your heart is also." Where your treasure is, there your heart is. And you go down to the end of this passage, and here's what he says. No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and you will love the other, or you will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. Now, interesting, Jesus doesn't give 13 different things that we could serve in our life. He says there's two. He says everything about your heart's affection will be demonstrated in what you call and put as your treasure. And ultimately, your heart will be captivated in loyalty primarily to only one of two things, either me or stuff. That's it. There's not a third option. There's not a fourth option. Why? He says, because where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Our hearts were made to be tangled up in affection for Jesus. And the number one contender against that is the stuff of this world. So how in the world do we go through life then and figure out how to monitor what's happening in our hearts? If our heart is a reflection of where our real treasure is in this life, and then that produces ultimately our health. And I don't even think just spiritually, I think even to a physical degree, how do we monitor? Because there's so many other ways in life that we can monitor our health, right? Our apps do it, our phones do it, our watches do it, steering wheels and cars do it. Now the new AirPod Buds, Pros, they do it. Like there's such a consistent way of trying to figure out how we monitor the physical condition of our heart. And I just don't know that we put enough emphasis and attention into how do we monitor the spiritual condition of our heart. So 2003, 3303 as a matter of fact, was one of the most significant days of my life with my wife. We saw the birth of our first son. It was only rivaled by your births over here. 1207, my daughter's. But 3303, your brother came first, showed up, flipped our world completely upside down in all the good, crazy, exciting ways. That was 3303. 3403 was a very different day. So 3403, doctors come in, middle of the day, they're doing their routine checkup on Tobin, and we could tell that one of the nurses seemed a little bit startled, so she runs out of the room, kind of comes back very hurried. She's got the doctor with her now and another nurse, and they're all stethoscope on him and listening, and then they just take him out of the room with no explanation, and the only thing we heard as they rushed him out of the room was something about his heart, which is not what you want to hear, especially with your firstborn. Like, you're nervous about everything. If they come in the room with your firstborn and they're like, the toenail looks weird, you're freaking out. But when they say the heart is not sounding right, like, you go into panic mode. So we would find out over the next, I think it was about the next 2-3 days, that our son was born with a condition called VSD, ventricular septal defect, where he had in the lower part of his heart between the left and right chamber, he had 6 holes. And so we asked the doctor, well, what in the world does that mean? And he said, well, we don't know yet. It could mean anything from we just need to monitor him for the rest of his life, essentially, or open heart surgery in the next couple of weeks. We don't know. And so that began for us just all the visits and the testing and the doctors and the cardiologist. And thankfully, he never had to have surgery. But we did start very early on. Here's a picture, as a matter of fact, when he was young. He's 22 and 6'3" now, so very different day. But these are very routine moments for us when he was growing up. Where on a pretty regular basis, we had to go in and have a variety of stress tests and heart tests, all the things. But we learned more about monitoring the heart than we ever wanted to learn in Tobin's early days because of his heart condition. So again, here's my question. How do we do that with our spiritual heart? If God says the greatest command is that your heart is affectionate for me, And yet where your treasure is, there your heart's going to be also. And there will be a war for your affection with the stuff of this world. How do we go about trying to figure out what the condition of this heart is and how it's doing and what really is the greatest treasure for it? So Proverbs 4:23 on your screen. This is what Jesus once said. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Say the word everything. So this part of the Bible, originally written in Hebrew, do you know what the Hebrew word for everything is? Everything. He's saying, listen, nothing escapes this. The reality that every single thing you do in this life is a product of the condition of your heart. That's as true physically as it is spiritually, which is why God says, guard this thing. We're told that all throughout life, even physically, like take care of your heart. Don't have heart conditions. You could have poor management of your heart. The same thing is true spiritually. God says everything comes from this heart. So guard this heart and guard it viciously. There's a lot of things that you and I can survive without having physically. You could have a limb amputated and still have a grateful life. Matter of fact, I had a friend just 2 years ago, went into the hospital, had an infection. They said, I think we need to do minor surgery. Knocked him out, woke up, he had no leg. It was far more extensive than they realized. He's learning to walk with a prosthetic. He's doing great. He's got a whole new life now, but he's going to live a fine life. If that was his heart, we're having a funeral. Like this, I know this is an obvious statement, but I don't know that we realize that it transcends as much spiritually as it does physically. There are a lot of things that you can be in process, give no attention to spiritually, and still be firing. But you give no attention to your heart, God said it best, everything comes out of this. You must guard it, guard it, guard it. I think that's probably why Jesus talks so much about it. You know, all the things that Jesus taught, his parables, his teachings, nearly 40% of the things that he taught had to do with our wealth, our money, our resources, our stuff, 40%. And it wasn't because he was trying to get anything from us. Many of you know this, but the Bible says Jesus had no place to lay his head. In other words, he was poor. He relied on the generosity of other people. He didn't have things himself. This was not Jesus going through life going, I'm just going to use my spiritual influence and get what I can from people. Then why would 40% of what he had to talk about be about our stuff? Because I think he realized the danger and was trying to get us to understand the danger of how much our stuff in our heart can get, I think, inappropriately and dangerously entangled. And it was his effort to help us figure out how to detangle them so that our heart's affection would be captivated above all by the God who made us, not the stuff he made for us. I don't know if you guys have this in your house. I'm sure you do. But everybody got a junk drawer? Yeah. I have no idea how junk drawers even get started. We moved a couple months ago, and we decided, okay, we're not going to have the junk drawer in the kitchen. It's so dumb. Why do we have a whole drawer dedicated to garbage? Like, we're not doing it. We presently have a junk drawer. And I don't even know how it happened. It just one day I woke up, I was like, we have another junk drawer. In our last house, we had this one drawer that became the space where we had all of the random cords and cables and chargers and all the things that you don't know where they came from, who they belong to. I think there was a cord in there from my Atari back in high school. It was like what are these things? It went in a drawer. So we're getting ready to move. We're packing everything up. And I came home one day. I was like, all right, babe, what's my task today? She goes, I just need you to deal with the junk drawer. Can you take all those dumb cords? Can you untangle them? Can you figure out what's what? What do we need to keep? What do we need to get rid of? I was like, oh, that's such a pain in the neck. She's like, I know. That's why I don't want to do it. Please untangle everything, figure it out, sort it all through. So what I did instead is I threw it all in a bag, put it in a box, and I moved it to Holland. So I'm not even kidding. I literally went last night and pulled it out of the basement. And this is the contents. I actually need that charger. I'm not kidding. That's funny. All right. So this is our cable. Anybody else have a cable mess like this at home somewhere? I'm not that weird, am I? But here's the thing. All of these cables wrapped up, I think they all function still. I think they all work. But in this current condition, they're virtually useless. They'll not perform what they're supposed to perform. They'll not accomplish what they're supposed to accomplish. When our heart is tangled up, not with Jesus and affection for him, but with the stuff of this world more. When we live more to love the stuff of this world and use God than to love God and use the stuff of this world, that's what our heart looks like. It gets tangled up in this knot and in this mess that will never function the way that God intended it to function to your own benefit or to the benefit of those around you, because it's just caught up in a mess. The entanglement of our hearts with our stuff, it affects everything. Everything. From your own sense of identity, insecurity, self-worth, your relationships, how you view others, how you view God. Everything is affected by the tanglement of our hearts and what it's tangled up with, whether it be the heart of Jesus or the heart of our stuff. That's why I'm saying this isn't really about money. It is about the condition of your heart, but it's about what your heart is most tangled up with. And Jesus was pretty clear. When he said there's two ways to live. There's stuff that's going to perish and pass away. Thieves can even take it from you, or there's stuff that goes to the kingdom and it doesn't. There's two ways to live, with a tangled up heart or an untangled heart. An untangled heart is when you and I live to use the stuff of this world for kingdom purposes. A tangled heart is when we're using God to get more of the stuff of this world. Is when the stuff of this world is what we really want. It's when we're not living for the kingdom. It's when we're living for what rusts and what fades and what disappears one day. So when I was in college, probably like many of you, I came from a family, one of seven, oldest of seven, first to go off to college. I was broke as a joke in school. Like my dad, when I went off to school, what my dad gave me to go to school was a thumbs up and a good luck. Like that's how I went to college, and so I had to work umpteen jobs. I started a car detailing company, a lawn service company, worked at a coffee shop. Like I had nothing. And the place that was most evidenced was in my junky cars that I constantly drove. One of which was a Chrysler 300 that a friend of mine was literally about to give to the junkyard, and he decided to give it to me. I'm like, that's how great my car was. It was destined for the junkyard. He's like, I think it's got a little life left in it if you need it. I was like, I do. I got a bike. So I get the Chrysler 300. I drive it for like a month, and it dies. I'm like, are you kidding me? So at that time, I'm engaged to my wife, and my father-in-law and my wife-to-be decided to be uber generous. And they went to, my father-in-law worked at Chrysler, retired from Chrysler, so his passion is just swapping cars. So we went to a lot that he likes to go to where he'll buy cars, fix them up, swap them. And he found an old car, great condition, no rust, low miles, been kept inside of a garage for the winter, but it was a Dodge Omni. Anybody remember a Dodge Omni? This is it if you don't. That's literally the car. So they come over one day and they're like, hey, we got you a car because we know you needed a car. I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys are amazing. Like I was never so thankful for Dodge Omni in all my life when you don't have a car. I was like, I'll take it. Problem was, I was also in the process of moving because we were only a couple months away from getting married. And so we decided I needed to do the awful decision of moving back home to my parents like 6 months so we could save money. So I was driving this one particular day to a new job interview, Outback Steakhouse, because I heard they paid way better than the restaurant I was waiting tables at. But I was also moving back home that same weekend. So I had every earthly possession I owned in boxes in that Dodge Omni, flying down the highway to my interview when some dude decides at 70 or 80 miles an hour to do a 3-lane changeover. And he clips the front end of my little Dodge Omni. Like just touches it. But it was enough at that speed that it started spinning me around. So I'm doing this on the highway. Like my heart's beating out of my chest. I'm freaking out. Finally come to a stop. I'm facing traffic. I'm looking at cars coming this way, thinking I'm on the side of the road, but my heart, you know how those moments are, like your heart's racing, your adrenaline's going. I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, calm down. And then all of a sudden I feel the car go like this. I was on the side of a hill on this highway. It was I-94, and there's a little exit called Harper where the whole road stoops down into this little ditch. I rolled that car down 5 times over. So the car, I still remember, if I close my eyes now, I can still see all the windows breaking, all the glass flying. True story, too. Here's what's crazy. The brackets in my seat broke, so my seat went completely flat, and the roof caved all the way in to the point that it smashed my steering wheel down, which would have been my neck. And that thing just rolls, stops upright. So there's an ambulance taking somebody else to the hospital. They see the whole thing happen. They call for somebody. So I must have passed out for a couple of minutes. I come to. I'm getting out of the car. I'm thinking I'm totally fine. There's a paramedic now barreling down this hill. And as he's running, he's yelling at me. He's like, lay down, lay down. Probably thinking, I don't know, broke something, internal injury. All I'm paying attention to is every worldly possession I have just flew out the window. Like everything. I mean, there's boxes and books and pants and shoes and underwear. And I mean, you name it. Everything I owned is scattered all over the highway. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I turned back to see this guy. Now he's like feet from me. So what he described later on in the hospital he was trying to do was come up, put his hand on my chest, hand on my back, help lay me down gently on the ground. But the momentum of running down the hill, he just hits me right in the chest, lays me out flat on my back. Now I'm fully conscious again. So now I'm like back to my smart aleck self. And he goes, he just bypassed it. Like nothing happens. He's like, are you okay? Is anything hurt? Blah, blah, blah. I was like, well, my neck does now. That was it. Before I knew it, it's like this. Like my hands are taped to my side. I got some big plastic thing on my neck. I get rushed into the hospital. They cut my clothes off and they assault me. It was awful. Like, what is happening? And it was, again, remember, this is all, I'm literally wearing my last outfit, I think, at this point, because everything else is scattered on the highway. So I'm watching them cut my pants off, my new sweatshirt. They get to my shoes and I go, don't cut my shoes. So they actually untied my shoes, took them off gently. But then I think it was 2 days later, I leave the hospital. And if you guys know this, if you've been in the hospital for a few days, they hand you a bag. And I get this bag, and it dawns on me as I'm standing there receiving this bag. I'm like, this is everything I own right now because everything else is gone. My father-in-law went back to the accident and even to the junkyard where they took the car, and there was nothing. So whoever cleaned up all the stuff that flew out of the car, they literally just threw it all away, and I had nothing. Here's what a verse in Proverbs tells us about the stuff all of us own, because I think it's a similar experience. Don't wear yourself out to get rich, and don't trust in your own cleverness. Here's why. Cast but a glance at riches, and they are gone, for they will surely sprout wings and fly off to the sky like an eagle. It's kind of a sobering experience when you genuinely watch all that you own fly off and just go bye-bye, and you realize, everything I have just disappeared in an instant like that. Everything you own is going to one day do the same thing. Everything. Because here's the reality about that car. Even though it was a great car before I rolled it down a hill, low miles and no rust and all that, I never drove that car around and was like, look at my sweet Dodge Omni. It was more like, please hold together at 60 miles an hour on the highway. Like it just wasn't like the best car in the world. It was a decent car. It got me around. But here's the crazy thing. There was a day that was a brand new car and somebody drove it off the lot and was showing it off to their friends. So I actually found right here, this is the original ad for the Dodge Omni. Like there was a day somebody saw that ad and went, versatile, need it. And they went and they bought that and they drove that to their friends. They drove that to their family. They're like, hatchback. You can put anything in there, baby. Like somebody was really proud of that thing at one point. They bragged about it. They spent money on it. They waxed it. They washed it. Where's it at now? Same place all your stuff's going to one day be. Every single thing. Some of it someone else is going to own first, but it's still going to ultimately go to the same place. Every single thing you own in this life is destined for rust and dust. It's going to end up in a landfill one day. And yet so much of our life is so consumed with what's just future generations of landfill. That's when our heart gets too tangled up with the stuff of this world instead of the affections of Jesus. And so part of what I think is important for us to figure out to do is how do we monitor then the health of our heart and what our affection is truly about? Because trying, and I'm included in this as much as anybody, trying to convince us that we have any real problem with greed or stuff or an entitlement towards stuff is almost like trying to teach a fish that they're wet. It's the ocean we swim in, especially in Western culture. It just is the world we swim in. And so it's really difficult to wrestle with and even convince ourselves at times that we have a problem when it comes to any of this. We're like, no, I love God. I just use stuff. And yet, 1,400 years before Jesus ever spoke these words to his disciples and to a listening crowd, God was trying to give his people, back generations earlier, a very practical practice, a very real practice on how to regularly monitor what's going on. Like, it would literally be like my son in the chair with cables. Like he had a spiritual way to put the cables on and detect, hey, what's happening in your heart? So I want to quickly show it to you because I think it really does transcend from then until now. It's in the Old Testament, in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 15, if you've got your Bibles. If not, again, it'll be on the screen. God said this to his people once. If anyone among you and your fellow Israelites or any in the towns and the lands that the Lord your God is giving you is in need, do not be, say it, what? Yeah. See, it's always been about the heart. Even back to the Old Testament, God was trying to teach his people, this is about the condition of your heart. I'm trying to help you guard your heart from becoming hard-hearted. He says, if anyone around you is in need, do not be hard-hearted or tight-fisted towards them. Rather, be open-handed and freely lend them whatever they need. Be careful not to harbor this wicked thought. The seventh year, the year for canceling debt, is near. Don't harbor that thought so that you end up showing ill will towards the needy among your fellow Israelites, and you end up giving them nothing. Then they may appeal to the Lord against you, and you will be found guilty of sin. So let me give you the first one, then let me explain what's happening. I think the first test of our heart is this, is that we have to learn how to regularly examine our heart and then admit when we find selfishness in it. So what's happening here is that God has instituted with his people sort of an economic system to try and both give them a flourishing life at the time, but also to forecast what Jesus would do ultimately for us on the cross by erasing all of our debt. So it was called the year of Jubilee, and every 7 years, whatever debt you had was wiped clean. Like, can you imagine? Like, think about that. Right now, imagine 5 years from now, whatever debt is made up in this room, gone. So that's a year of Jubilee, like a complete time of like reset. Didn't matter who you owed what to, whether you were the lender, whether you were the borrower. Every 7 years, year of Jubilee, debt's gone. So what he's saying in this passage is, here's what you don't do. Suppose somebody comes to you and they have a need and they ask to borrow, and your thought is, 6 months from now is a year of Jubilee, and if they can't repay me within 6 months, then the debt's canceled and I get nothing back. No, I'm not going to loan to you. Which would, I mean, in most accounts would sound reasonable. Like you did your work, you thought it through, you're like, it's not a very wise decision to give money to somebody that I know is not going to pay me back. But here's what's crazy. The kingdom of Jesus is intended to be so different that that kind of behavior, how did he describe it? Wicked. He said that's a wicked thought. And he not only said that's a wicked thought, he said if that's what you do, if that's the way you would harbor what you have instead of lend, even when you know it won't come back to you, it's sin. You'll be guilty of sin. Now this is what's crazy to me, because everything in our way of thinking would go, no, my brother asked me for money once and I knew that knucklehead wasn't paying it back, so I said no. I get it. I understand. But the way of Jesus is intended to be so radically different from this world, from the decisions we would otherwise make apart from Jesus, that it wouldn't make sense, that it doesn't make sense, that it could only be defined as a kingdom basically upside down. This is a backwards way of living, and this is exactly what God is saying. My people will live differently. My people will have a more generous heart because their heart is intended to be affectionate to me, not their stuff. But the more that our hearts are tangled up with our stuff, the more we'll tight-fist it, his word. The more we'll be selfish with it and say, no, unless you can give back, then my answer is no. So I think one of the most important things for us to do is figure out, how do I regularly just get honest and go, okay, yeah, there's some selfishness in my heart. So I'll speak for myself. I am selfish with my stuff. I grew up, I've told you this a couple times before since I've been here. I grew up, oldest of 7, 2 handicapped parents. Money was very tight at times. There were literally times I remember as a family praying, like, okay, God, next month you got to come through. There were seasons where we lived on the generosity of our church and other people. So I grow up, I have a job, I have a stream of income, my wife's got a good job, and I get things, and you would think all of that would then make me go, I never had a lot, and so now I'm generous with what I have, and instead I tend to hoard it. And I'm like, I have a really hard time opening my hand with my things because I spent so much of my life without. And then God gives me my son, I think, to help me break that bad habit because he just takes everything I have and thinks it's his. But I have to regularly face the fact that there is a natural selfishness within me with my stuff that God is continuing to work out of me. But we have to do the work of regularly examining our heart to go, is there selfishness there? Because selfishness is like a disease. It doesn't just stay small. It grows and grows and grows until you deal with it. And I think this is such a problem that it's why in other places in the Bible, Jesus uses extremely strong language about how to guard against it. Go to the book of Luke on your screen. This is what Jesus once said. Watch out and be on guard against all kinds of what? Against all kinds of greed. Watch out and be on guard. Watch out and be on guard. Why? Why do you have to be on guard unless something's coming against you? This isn't just, hey, I need you to have better financial planning. The language he's using here is that you have somebody in pursuit of you, and you need to be on guard against them. You need to be diligently watching against them because there's something coming against you. We know that the Bible's made it very clear that we have an enemy. God has an enemy, we have an enemy. It goes by many different descriptions throughout the Bible, but he is repeatedly referred to as a lion who seeks whom he can devour. And his job is to kill us, to steal from us, to destroy. Whether that's physically, emotionally, mentally, relationally, spiritually, you and I have an enemy. And do you know what his number one tactic is so often to lure us away from the heart of God? It's the stuff of this world. He dangles it like bait right in front of us. I mean, a lot of you, just like me, you've already spent several weeks in the woods looking for Bambi. And you're going to be out this Saturday when the gun opener happens. And if you're like me, you've got all your little tricks. You've got your decoys, and you've got your lures, and you've got your little jars of dough pea, which my wife realized I did that. I remember years ago. She's like, wait, you carry around a jar full of pea from a dough? She's like, you're really weird. I was like, it's what we do, babe. It's what we do. But I'm going to put that stuff everywhere. What am I doing? I'm trying to put a lure out that convinces a buck to walk in front of me thinking it's something that it isn't so that I can shoot him and take his head and hang it on my wall. And that's exactly what the enemy does. He hates you. He hates me. His whole goal is against us. And you know what the lure is that he dangles to try to get us to go, oh, that smells right. That looks good. Is the stuff of this world so that he can take off our head and hang it on a wall, so that he can kill our hearts and separate them from being affectionately entangled and intertwined with the heart of Jesus. That's why I think he says, be on guard and watch out, and uses such strong language. Number two, here's what we're going to do, is we're going to confess a grudging heart. So you go back to the text, and after God says to his people, I want you to be generous, not tight-fisted, he says this, give generously to them, and to do so without a grudging heart, because then the Lord your God will bless you in all the work of your hands and everything that you do. So, you know, before we have a tendency to be generous with whatever we have, what we're affected by is greed. I don't want to. And then a lot of times after we're generous and go, you know what, I'm going to do what God says. I'm going to live the life of Jesus. What affects us is grief. It's like, oh my gosh, what did I do? I shouldn't have done. Should I have done that? Like this happened to me a couple years ago. I went to Cuba, took a mission trip down to Cuba, and we spent time down there trying to help a church build a new addition onto the building, because basically it was the pastor's house, so we were building a room onto the back of it. And I've gotten used to over the years realizing in these third world countries, there's no such thing as power tools half the time. So we're trying to build houses with screwdrivers and hammers. I'm like, this is not working. So I would start bringing down suitcases of tools. And this trip I brought 3. And I brought like every tool I owned. I mean, every power tool, every saw, I mean, you name it, I owned it. I think 14 tape measures, levels, the whole works. I practically emptied my garage and carried it all down. The thing was, about midway through the trip, like the pastor shared with us, that he'll never be able to own any of that. I was like, what? And I thought it was just because they couldn't afford it. He goes, no, we're not allowed. Like in the way our government works here, I'm not allowed to own this kind of stuff. It's like, get out of here. So I felt really nudged towards the end of the trip. Last day of the trip, really felt like God said, I want you to leave it. I'm like, okay, which part of it? He's like, all of it. I'm like, all of it. And so I did. I went to the pastor. I was like, hey, I'm going to leave this. And he grabbed the drill that he'd been using all week. He's all excited. He's like, oh, he starts crying. He's all thankful. I go, no, not the drill, like everything. And it was great. It was such a cool moment. We had this big embrace, and it felt so good. Like if you have these moments, like it feels good when you do something like that. I got home the next day. I walked into my garage, and I immediately was like, what the heck did I do? Why did I do that? I just gave away everything. What a I should have just given 1 suitcase, not 3. And I go to my wife. I was like, babe, I got to buy new tools. She goes, add it to your Christmas wish list. It's like, ah. But there's just a reality that sometimes even when you go, you know, God, everything is yours, and so I'm going to live that way, is that afterwards you go, oh, man, I'm really regretting it. And I think that regret, that begrudging moment, again, it's an indication of the entanglement of your heart with your stuff. God says, live generous and don't regret it. I think those are the first 2 monitors we put on, is going, am I being selfish right now? Is there selfishness that needs to get rooted out? Is there regret when I'm not selfish and when I am generous? And so the third way that we're going to live, this is the opposite now, is we're going to choose to live generous. And this is what God says back to his people. I want you to supply them liberally. Everybody say liberally. Liberally from your flock, your threshing floor, and your winepress. Give them as the Lord your God has blessed you. And I think the key word is liberally, because you and I, we're not we're not bent from birth to be generous people. We're just not. The human tendency is to hoard, guard, and take. That's why the first thing we all have to teach our kids is to share, right? Because everything's mine, 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 mine. Like, no, it's not actually yours, it's mine, I bought it. Let's share. And we have to be taught throughout our lives to share, because the natural tendency is not to be generous, let alone to be liberally generous. And then God says, and I want you to be liberally generous from everything that you have, from your flocks to your threshing floor to your wine press. He's like, everything, nothing escapes. So it's not even just your money. He's saying, my people will just be a generous people. Because I think for some of us, the truth is, you are generous with your money, but you're selfish with your time. And some of you are generous with your time, but you're selfish with your resources and your stuff. And some of you are generous with your stuff. Anybody could borrow anything, drive anything, take anything out of your garage. But you're selfish with your words. People don't feel encouraged and built up around you. They have to work so hard before they feel affirmed by you. See, this isn't just about your money. It's about the condition of your heart. And when your heart is maturing in Jesus to realize everything is his anyways, then you just kind of live the way that Jesus is telling his people here to live. Everything you have, I gave you. And so open up your generosity. It's about a generous posture, not about just giving money. It's a generous posture, which is why, again, you go back to the New Testament, and the Apostle Paul once said, when I was a child, you know what I did? I thought like a child, I acted like a child, but when I became a man, I put childish ways behind me. One of the most evident forms of maturity from child to adult is from selfish to generous. When you stop going mine, 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 and go, no, I can help, I can give, I can do. Especially when you consider on your screen, the book of Psalm tells us this about everything, including all that you and I own, is that everything in all the earth is the Lord's. Everything. Not some things. Everything is the Lord's, which means that everything you own, you don't actually own. You're like, what do you mean? I worked hard for it. I paid the bill for it. I'm still paying the bill for it. Everything is owned by him. And when we understand that, and we truly appreciate that, we start to move to a different place of spiritual maturity from mine, 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 mine to no, his. And when you realize it's all his to begin with, then your posture is more naturally bent towards saying, I don't own anything anyways. It's all what he has been good to grace me with and give me. And the last thing that God tells his people is what I think is the bow that ties it all together. He says, here's what I want you to do. Remember that you were once slaves in Egypt, and that the Lord your God redeemed you, and this is why I give you this command today. He said, listen, I'm not asking you to give and be generous for any other reason than this. It's what I did for you. And this was a people that was literally slaves. You know the history of the Hebrew people. They lived in slavery and captivity to the Egyptian empire. God rescued them, made them a people of their own, a land of their own, resources of their own. For you and I, that's the condition we're born into called sin. That's our Egypt. We're born into a condition where our future is destruction. We're born into a condition where we are separated from God. We're born into a condition where our heart is bent towards rebellion of God. What God did, though, is put himself into skin, crawled on a cross, out of a tomb, and all of that for you and I to have relationship. And what he's saying to them then, to us now, is I'm asking you to live different because of how I lived for you, because of what I have done for you. And I think it's just really, really easy to forget what God has done for us, which is why the last thing that we do is remember the generosity of God towards us. Remember that we were born separate from him. Remember that we were born for destruction. Remember that we were born with no power to change our own circumstances. And remember that it was the cross of Jesus Christ that changed everything. Everything. Our band's going to make its way back out. We're going to close with a song here in just a minute. And I want, as we sing the words of this song, I want us to remember and keep at the forefront of our minds that you may not have every single thing that this world has to offer, or every single thing that you'll one day even have. But if you, and this is not just religious nonsense, if you have Jesus, there is nothing you lack, and there is nothing better. There is nothing better. And the more that we live captivated by the heart of Jesus, the more that we live with our hands open and our heart in a generous posture, because it's his, not mine. Father, I just pray to you right now. And Lord, I ask that you would just continue to do your good work to help me grow in this area. Pray that you would expose for us in the good fatherly way that you can the parts of our own hearts that are still maybe selfish, begrudging, maybe too entangled with the things of this world. Would you show it not to leave us in despair, but to take us by the hand then, God, and help heal our hearts to a better place. Help us to believe that all the times and ways and places that you speak about our resources and our money and our stuff truly, sincerely is for the benefit of our heart and our connection with you. And God, forgive us in the world, especially of the church, where so often we have abused your teachings on the issue of money, where we have been selfish and self-centered and manipulative. And we have used messages and topics like this and teachings like this to our own end and gain. And filter all of that out, God, so that it would be your voice that we hear speak to us about your good intentions for our heart, about what it means that the greatest invitation, command that you have offered humanity is for our hearts to be tangled up with your heart. So let that be. May our hearts be no more tangled up with anything in this world than they are with you, I pray, Jesus. To your glory, to our benefit. Amen.
All right, would you stand with us as we continue to worship this morning? I'm caught up in your presence. Oh, I just want to sit here at your feet. I'm caught up in this holy moment. I never want to leave. Oh, I'm not here for blessings. Jesus, you don't owe me anything. And more than anything that you can do, I just want you. And I'm sorry when I've just gone through the motions. I'm sorry when I just sang another song. Take me back to where we started. I open up my heart to you. And I'm sorry when I've come with my agenda. I'm sorry when I forgot that you're enough. Take me back to where we started. going back to where we started. All we want is your presence. Oh, only you, God. Take me back to my first love. I'm caught up in your presence. Come on, church. I just wanna sit here at your feet. I'm caught up in this holy moment. I never wanna leave. Oh, I'm not here for blessing. You don't owe me, Jesus. You don't owe me anything, and more than anything that you can do, I just want you.
So let me pray. Jesus, I just be honest, God. I know that I sing those words, and the truth is there's times that there are other things that matter. But I want that nothing else would matter so much as you. And so please continue to do your good work in me and in anyone else like me that needs to have my heart more and more captivated by you and for you, and less by the stuff of this world. God, that it would be said of us as a people, truly, 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 that is a people that loves Jesus and uses the stuff of this world to the benefit of the kingdom and mankind. Thank you for your good grace and your patience, as some days it feels like I'm just stumbling towards you, God. But your good grace to do your work in my life, to eventually, your promise, finish that work, and to be patient with all of us as we journey towards you, becoming more like you. In Christ's name, amen. Hey, as you leave this morning, two really quick things. One, first weekend in December, we have baptism. So if you've been thinking about it, haven't been baptized yet, we would love to have you sign up for that. You can do that at the hub, whether the physical desk, or you can do it right on the online version of the hub. It's going to be fun. We're going to do things a little bit different with this baptism service. I'll just give you this secret. It's going to be out in the room with you guys. It's going to be awesome. And if you haven't been baptized yet, this is going to be a great one to be a part of. Last thing is, and I've sent you several things on this in email and messages, so you're probably sick of hearing about it, but tomorrow night is our Future Ready event, where for the first time since I've been here, we're going to gather for a night like this, where we're going to talk a little bit about the past and celebrate what God has done over 35 tremendous years, and then we're going to talk about the future and some of what we think God has in store, and we're going to talk about some of the long-term things we see God doing and some immediate things that we think God is asking us to do, and how it is that we can all partner together in that. So it's going to be an exciting night. It's a fun night. I know our creative team has a lot of great stuff planned and in store, and I just looking forward to you being there so that we can both celebrate and dream together. If you could register for that, again, you can do that on the hub. We're planning food. That'll just let us plan appropriately and make sure that we're accounting for you being there if you're going to be there. So thank you so much. Let's go this week. Let's monitor the heart and ask that Jesus keeps it tangled up with him more than anything else. We'll see you tomorrow night.